It's the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Recorded from Detroit, Michigan, and Jacksonville, Florida. The Infectious Groove Podcast is your source for jammy jams, album reviews, and the best in-depth music discussion. Thanks for joining us. Now here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome to the Infectious Groove Podcast. My name is Russ. Along with me back this week for one of the very last episodes of the audio podcast is Michelle. And Michelle just had the grand pleasure of having me back up in Detroit over last weekend. Have you recovered yet? How you feel about that?
I'm still sick, so thanks for that. I think you brought that with you.
No, I didn't do that. Also, there was a scuttlebutt on Twitter that you were going to punch me in the face while I was in Detroit, and I kept telling people that you would not follow through on that, and it appears that you did not.
Did I threaten to punch you?
Almost every week on the show, yeah.
Not in the face, at least. I didn't punch you. Oh.
I don't believe you punched me anywhere.
I don't know. There was a lot of drinks. That's
true. In addition to Michelle, I have on the episode this week my lovely wife, Lauren, from the Beard Al podcast, and I would assume most people are aware of what you do over on your show, but just in case.
Just in case.
Let everyone know.
Sure. We talk about two of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al, and a bunch of other crap, usually. Yeah.
It is. There is a lot of poop talk.
There is, yeah, I didn't even mean it like in that way, but yes, literally, we talk about a lot of crap.
You certainly do.
We do.
Lawrence and her brother do a show where they literally pair up a beer.
Yep.
With an episode of Weird Al. And they sometimes talk a little bit about the beer and a little bit about the song, but a lot about poop.
Mostly poop.
Right.
Yeah. I think the listeners of my show know more about my pooping habits than like my doctor.
Yeah, probably. So if you're into those things, go check out the Beard Al podcast. Any number of those things. If you like any number of those things, go check out their show. But Lauren will be sitting in with Michelle and I this week to cover something that I truly love. And Michelle has been waiting for ages for this episode because this is a super important topic to her, is music biopics, which there are some really good ones out there and there are some really, really, really bad ones out there. So as our show tends to do, instead of sitting around talking about the things we don't like, we're going to talk about the things we do like. So when we get into the second half of the show, we're going to share some of our favorite music biopics of all time and talk through our top. Well, Lauren and I will be sharing our top 3 each. And Michelle brought all of 2 with you, Michelle?
Yes.
So we'll be talking about Michelle's top 2 music biopics of all time.
It's a solid 2.
Yeah, right. Yep, more poop talk. But before we get into the second half of the show, we always have a couple of things to handle at the beginning. So here we go.
Feedback, Joe. Don't worry about that. Right. There's rock and roll be without feedback.
Last week on the show, we had our friend Garrett step in from the Ever Trending Story podcast, and we were reviewing the Michael Jackson album Bad. And as you might imagine, we had a lot of feedback to go through from that episode, one of which was Garrett himself just wrote us and said, thank you so much for having me back on. This was such a fun time. And it was great for us, but a lot of the feedback that we got, and this wasn't in a bad way per se, but a whole lot of the feedback that we got was surrounding the fact that like Garrett had never heard the album Bad in its entirety before. And I believe, unless I'm remembering wrong, he had only ever seen the actual short film for the song Bad from the album. So he hadn't seen stuff like The Way You Make Me Feel or Another Part of Me or A Smooth Criminal. So there was a lot of feedback of people that came in that were in a way kind of missing the point that like Garrett had heard this album for the first time and really loved it. And a lot of people were just kind of in disbelief that he hadn't heard it till then. And MJ fans get pretty upset over nothing a lot. And there was a lot of feedback that we got. So I weeded all of that out and decided just to go with the stuff where people were, bringing up good points. And there was a person who said that offhand during the discussion, we talked about a song called Streetwalker that didn't make the album because of a song that did make the album called Another Part of Me. And we got a lot of people writing in saying that they love that song, Another Part of Me. But a lot of people hadn't heard the song Streetwalker. So we got a whole bunch of feedback on that. Different people just saying that they had never heard the song Streetwalker. And when they went to listen to it, they were like, oh, darn, like I love Another Part of Me. And now I love this song too, so we got a lot of feedback like that as well. We also had a couple of things from YouTube that I wanted to share recently, one of which was another MJ related thing that we did. I did a YouTube video of 5 great covers of Michael Jackson, and we had someone write in and say that they had never heard of any of the covers that I mentioned in that, except for the John Mayer one where John Mayer was doing Human Nature at Michael's funeral. But they said they were going to check out the rest of the covers, and then they wrote back and said, holy cow, they couldn't believe how good the covers were that I mentioned in the video. But then they went on to say that there's a lot of covers that Michael Jackson does that a lot of people don't remember either, like a lot of the stuff from the Jackson 5 era. Like the Jackson 5 cover of Who's Loving You is amazing. So stuff like that was nice that was pointed out. Lastly, we had a YouTube video that I did recently that was a viewer suggestion about great albums with headphones. And a viewer wrote in and said two that I didn't even think of in that era was 9 Inch Nails, their albums With Teeth and The Fragile. Both make for good headphones albums, which I haven't heard either of those records. Like, a lot of people love those albums, and I've just never got around to listening to them. But I could totally see that, because the albums that I do know by 9 Inch Nails, like the first 3 or 4, would make for great headphones records. So, but we have 3 YouTube videos every week. For now, we have one podcast episode every week. So if you have any feedback for us, leave it on Twitter or our Facebook page. You can leave a comment on Instagram, or you can subscribe to Infectious Groove Music on YouTube and leave comments on any number of our videos that we already have out, or the 3 we have out every week. Moving right along. Our Jammies. Our Jammy Jams is the segment where we talk about what we've been listening to lately. And the 3 songs that I have are not going to be a real big surprise because of what we've been doing, the aforementioned trip to Detroit and the Michael Jackson review that we did. But for all of the amazing songs that have come about from the Motown era of music, like the Motown label and everything, I don't know why, but the one that always pops into my head first and gets stuck in my head, and I think of more than any other song really from Motown, is the song Money by Barrett Strong. So having just went to the Motown Museum again, and then, gearing up for that trip and being there, and since then, for whatever reason, that song just absolutely sticks in my head. So Barrett Strong, Money has been one of mine. And then absolutely a Detroit thing, because again, when we were in Detroit, we went to Third Man Records and had a look around there again. And for all of the great songs that Jack White has written, either with or the White Stripes or on his own or with anybody else, really, the song that always sticks in my head from his whole catalog is the song Lazaretto, which is the title track of his second solo record. That whole album is fire, but that song in particular, I get stuck in my head a lot. And then the last song that has really been stuck in my head is the one that we were talking about from the Michael Jackson. It actually got left off the album Bad, but it was officially released on the 25th anniversary of the album. And there's a song called Streetwalker that, in my opinion, is as good or better than anything on the album, which is saying a lot, because that's an album that has songs like Man in the Mirror and Dirty Diana and The Way You Make Me Feel. I mean, it's loaded with great songs, but that song Streetwalker, I think, is as good or better than anything that did make the record. So those are the 3 songs that I have been listening to. Michelle, what song or podcast have you been listening to?
I have 2. First of all, I don't have a rhyme or reason, but my favorite Jimmy Eat World album is Futures, and that has been on playing on repeat for me. I think that every song on there is a jam, which I kind of wish I would have picked now for one of my album reviews. But anyways,
too late.
So I know. So anyways, I'll pick some songs from there. That's just It's not typical Jimmy Eat World. It's not Bleed America. It's not.
That's what I was going to ask. Did that album come out after it came out? So is it the next album after Bleed American?
It is. This came out in 2004. Bleed American came out in 2001. So right. Yes, it is the next one. Okay,
right on. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. So it's a great album. It's definitely very different. They definitely grew from their first album. So if you're expecting like run of the mill Jimmy Eat World, you're going to be sorely mistaken, but it's my favorite album. And then when I was out of town at a convention, they had a playlist that plays the same songs all day, every day for 11 hours straight. And one of the songs that came on has been stuck in my head ever since. This was like 2 weeks ago. Slam by Onyx. And
oh Lord,
I can't get it out.
That is absolutely something that would get stuck in your head. How many times have you screamed that at someone else?
A lot.
The chorus of that song.
First, I didn't know what it was. I knew the song, but I couldn't. So I was texting Kyle, and I was like, "What's the song that goes like whatever?" Yeah. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Well, I guess it would make more sense if I could sing it to you, but I'm at work, so right. Don't worry." I googled it and I figured it out.
I don't think I know that song.
You do. If I'll play it for you when we're done. As soon as you hear it, you'll go, "Oh, I know." It's early 90s hip hop.
Yeah.
You'll as soon as you hear the chorus, you'll go, "Oh,
I think
know
they're
that."
a one-hit wonder. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of you screaming stuff in people's faces, I was reminded of that just the other day because down here on the local news, they were having in studio was playing the band The Heavy, which reminded me of the time you and I went to see The Heavy at the shelter in Detroit, and you screamed, "How you like me now?" in my face a lot throughout the entire show.
Until they played it.
And then you didn't say it during the song while they were actually playing it.
I was listening.
Yeah, because
I was taking it in.
Because that's what you're known for.
Yes.
Intently listening.
Yep.
So you have Slam by Onyx, which has to be one of the most unexpected ones from you. And then from the Jimmy Eat World record, we always put stuff on the playlist. Are you just going to put a variety of songs that you like from it?
Yeah, I won't put the whole thing. Don't worry. I'll just put some of my favorites.
Having said that, yeah, because I figured the playlist will probably also have a bunch of songs from the artists for the biopics that we're going to have too. So probably round it out that way. Having said that, Lauren, what have you been listening to?
So I was going to come here with one song and then like an album that I was going to pick songs off of. And then I had a thing happen in the car earlier today. So I have a song, an album, and one more song. But anyway, the first one is the song Overkill by Men at Work because it has been coming up.
What a jam.
I know. It's been coming up on our playlist lately. And it's one of those songs that I didn't listen to like the lyrics too intently to until recently. And it is totally up my alley because it's a very depressing song that doesn't sound like a depressing song.
Isn't it on Scrubs?
I was just going to say, hold on. Let me translate for Michelle. Michelle, this is the song that Colin Hay sings acoustic in Scrubs.
Yeah, I know.
And you would know Colin Hay as, instead of Colin Hay, you would know him as the guy from Men at Work.
Yeah,
Right.
I know Colin Hay.
Oh.
He's the guy on Scrubs. And doesn't he have a lazy eye?
Maybe. We just saw him in concert with Ringo Starr last year.
Sure
though.
did.
He was awesome. He sounded exactly
You
like
didn't notice if he had a lazy eye?
we
We were
did
too
not,
far
no.
away.
Yeah. That and we were, enjoying him being an artist. We were sitting and critiquing his looks.
Well, it's easier to do when you're watching him on Scrubs
That's
on
true.
repeat.
That's true.
I've seen that episode probably 1,000 times. So.
No, easily. So you had starting out with Men at Work and Overkill, and what else have you got?
The next one is the album The Captain and the Kid by Elton John, which is like the sequel to Captain Fantastic and the Brown Deer Cowboy that he put out in 2006. And full disclosure, the only reason I even have been listening to this album lately is because there's a track on it called Old 67. And I've been playing this bingo game on my phone, and every time 067 comes up on my bingo game, I was like, 067, and I start thinking about it. So then I was like, you know what? I should probably listen to this album. So I did, and I forgot like how good it was from like start to finish. I was that person in 2006 when it came out. I was 21, and I went the day it came out to buy it because I was such a big Elton John fan. And I remember the guy looking at me like, "You're here for Elton John?" I'm like, I am here for Elton John. And it's great because, you know, how Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy covers, like, it's autobiographical up until 1975. Right. This covers everything after that. And so the two songs that I would submit for the playlist are Tinderbox and Blues Never Fade Away. And if you're going to listen to only one of those, listen to Blues Never Fade Away because it is such a commentary on, like, Elton was basically like, he's talking about the AIDS crisis and he's talking about people, like, dying of drug stuff. And it's sort of like, how did I get so lucky to not have that happen to me, to be the one that made it through this instead of that? And it's like, and also it's just stanky Elton piano on that track too, which it's great. Like, it's awesome.
Good. So that was the record that you've been listening to. You had the other song, and then what was the other song that popped up for you?
Yeah, so I went to the grocery store today, and I was just, had Spotify going in the car, and the song You're My Home by Billy Joel came on, and I've always loved this song, but I had a weird moment in the car today where I ended up listening to it like 3 times because you and I have... Like, we just got back from Detroit and stuff, and I did not feel out of place there. I did not feel out of place, like, anywhere we go, because it's all about, like, home being a person instead of a place. And I just very much had a moment about you with this song, so I felt like I needed to talk about that.
Well, hooray.
Yeah.
We have, isn't that one of the songs we have painted on
a cabinet? Yeah.
Cabinets? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know more about Billy Joel than I do, so I'm not entirely sure which Billy Joel songs are painted on our cabinets. But
it's just the one, and it's this one.
Oh, and the other is an Elton John song.
That is correct. And that's Tiny Dancer. You should know that one.
No, of course. Everyone knows that one. So those are our Jamie Jams. Those are the songs that we have been listening to and the artists we've been listening to. And as I said before, we have an Infectious Group podcast playlist that we will include a bunch of songs from our Jamie Jams on, and we will include songs from the artists that we're about to talk about in the second half of the show too. Speaking of the second half of the show, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk about altogether, there's supposed to be 9 biopics between the three of us, but it's going to be 8 because Michelle has 2 that are so good she can't even share a third. Let's put a spin on it like that.
I can talk about a third.
You can. You're listening to the Infectious Group podcast on the iPods Media Network.
Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Richie.
I'm Little Matt.
And here in the 500 Section Lounge, we are 3 dads who host a family-friendly weekly podcast.
Yep, we laugh, we go on tangents, and we talk to great guests.
Tangents. I don't know what you're talking about with that. You know, there are gases leaking.
All right, okay.
Yeah, we have legendary conversations from sports to history and everything in between.
So be on the lookout for what we do next.
And always be there to
grab a listen.
Hi, I'm Tina Jaramillo.
And I'm Hillary Doherty.
And we host the Muck Podcast, where we discuss the dark and sometimes weird true stories in American politics.
Hey, Tina, did you know that Elvis crashed the Nixon White House for the sole purpose of getting a DEA badge, and it worked?
What? Or how a gun control advocate senator out of California engaged in gun trafficking with notorious gang leader Shrimp Boy?
Shrimp Boy, I remember him. Okay, so, we cover all of that and more from maladies, madness, mischief, and murder in U.S. politics.
And we also host a bi-weekly interview segment called Lil Muck.
We interview politicians, journalists, activists, and others who share their experiences in politics.
Find the Muck Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and check us out on social media at the Muck Podcast.
We are back. It's Russ and Michelle from the Infectious Group podcast, and along with us this week, we're keeping it in the family. It is my lovely and beautiful wife, Lauren, from the Beard Al podcast.
I am all of those things.
As we said earlier, the place where they talk about beer, Weird Al, and poop.
And among other things, we talk about a lot of Nintendo also, by accident. In our last episode, I did a very good impression of Peach, Princess Peach. Oh, no.
You know, when you play Mario Party on the couch lot, you do a great impression of a person who's unjustly upset.
I become unhinged, yeah.
Yeah. She yells at the game a lot when the regular old rules are happening.
Yeah, but when they don't favor me, then that's a problem.
Right. No, I get that. So one thing that we have done over the years is talked about a whole lot of things that we like. And sometimes it's hard to approach some subjects because there are so many bad examples of them out there, which is kind of why I liked when we came up with the cover battles, or even the way that we do our album reviews and stuff. Like, we barely ever talk about what we don't like about it. And to be honest, I've been avoiding this particular topic for a long time because it is hard to put a positive spin on the topic of music biopics for me. And I know for a lot of people too, because there's so many of them just get so many things wrong. Like, they just really get a lot of things wrong. And I know we were joking a lot before in the first half of the show, and like offline, Michelle and I have been joking about you only have 2 that you're going to bring, because originally the concept here was that we each bring our top 3. Speaking of which, we're going to go through them like from least favorite to favorite. So our third favorite, second favorite, and first. And Michelle, you only have 2, but in all seriousness, what I want to ask you is, like, with music biopics, is it the reason why you only have 2? Is it because, like, they are so formulaic, like they always end up being the same thing, or just have you not even been interested in seeing like a lot more than the few you've seen?
I just don't like movies.
No, I know that.
They're too long, right? Are this because they're too long?
They're too long. I can sit and watch 17 seasons of The Office in one night, and it'd be great. But one movie is too long. I don't know. I don't know how to.
You need them to
explain it.
You need them to break up movies into like 22 minutes.
If it was a miniseries, literally miniseries, perfect. But anyways, I do have a third one I can talk about that I don't hate. Does that count?
Yes, that does count.
Okay.
But well, hold on. I'm not asking for
what
that
was
yet.
the question?
I'm very seriously asking. Like, see, here's my thing. There are music biopics that we might as well get right into this. So I've been avoiding watching the Whitney Houston biopic like the plague, because first of all, it's a very, very, very sad story. Second of all, there's a lot more to Whitney Houston's story than most people know. Like, it's not all "How Will I Know," I Will Always Love You, Bobby Brown, death. Like there's a lot more to it, right? And I was convinced that this movie was going to be handled absolutely terribly. So I've been avoiding it. But Lauren, we were, captive audience. We were flying home from Detroit the other day, and it was on the in-flight thing. So she took a chance on it, and it ended up being better than you thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah, it was way better than I thought it was going to be. The actress portraying Whitney Houston definitely studied her mannerisms. Like, I believed it. Like, I bought into it, like, right from the jump. And there were some parts of it where, like, you looked at me on the airplane, and you're like, are you okay? And I'm like, this Whitney movie, though.
You were crying.
I was crying on the airplane. They did a really good job. I didn't get to finish it on the plane, so we just finished it last night here. And,
And it was funny. The part I saw, I was like, this isn't that good. And Lauren's like, it was good before this, I promise. Like, like the end of it wasn't that good.
Because the end of it's the worst.
Right. But
I thought of an actual third one.
Okay.
So I have 3 now.
Okay.
But anyways, the reason that I don't like them or that I don't watch them,
right.
I don't actively avoid them. But mostly I just listen to what you say and you tell me that they're wrong. So I just don't watch them.
Okay. No, that's what I'm saying. So it's the factual part of things, right?
So when I watch a movie that's supposed to be based on true events, I take it as such.
Right.
And like, if you're telling me that the Bohemian Rhapsody one is just wrong, like that's not like there's physical proof that this didn't happen. Like I have a hard time watching that. If it was being like, here, this is what we think might have happened, and they're telling you that this is not based in reality, then I would watch it. But I'm a very black and gray person.
So, okay, I totally get that. And so it's funny because one of mine that's in my top 3, it plays very fast and loose with facts, but they're not facts that are important enough, in my opinion, to change it's things that happen, but they put them in different time spans from where they happened. Okay. And in my opinion, they're not consequential enough to the story to where it matters. Right. So I'm glad you brought up Bohemian Rhapsody. I wasn't even going to bring that up and then you mentioned it and I was like, oh yeah. So here's a huge problem I have with music biopics and why I usually don't like most of them is fully exampled by Bohemian Rhapsody. So I don't mind. There's a thing that happens early in Bohemian Rhapsody where they do the thing from Dewey Cox with the you need to walk hard, and then like he writes the song because he hears the phrase, right? They do that with We Will Rock You. Right, where like somebody says that and then somebody's like tapping on something and then, oh no, all of a sudden they wrote We Will Rock You. I don't mind that. I truly don't mind that. What I have a problem with is in real life, the reason why Queen kicked 10 kinds of ass at Live Aid was because they could. Like that's in real life, they just literally got back together and were like, hey, we're gonna show up at Live Aid and kill it. And everybody was like, no, you're not. You guys are already has-beens. And they were like, oh yeah. And then they ruled the world, right? And then Freddie wasn't even diagnosed with HIV until like, I'm going to screw this up while I'm on my own show here, but it was at least 2 or 3 years after Live Aid. And in the movie, they put his diagnosis in front of Live Aid as the way, like the rest of the band like feels sorry for him. And they they have to go out and the real life story is better. Mm-hmm. It's a better real life story that they went out and kicked ass because they could. And then that fully discounts everything Freddie actually did for the Innuendo record. Like the story of how he recorded The Show Must Go On is amazing. Like for a person who was actively dying, right? And that just all gets left out because they wanted really badly to end the movie, like 5 years before it needed to end, right?
Yeah. So
anyways, that's what irritates me. And then I'm going to elaborate more on that when I get to one of my picks. So having said that, Michelle, I've heard that we have a freshly minted third option that you would like to speak about.
I do have a freshly minted third.
Hot off the presses.
Yeah, it's funny because I know for a fact you and I are going to match up on at least one of our top 3. And I think my third is going to be your first. That's just my guess. But having said that, what is your third favorite music biopic?
8 Mile.
That's fair. That's not... See, like first of all, 8 Mile is Purple Rain 2000. Like it's exactly.
Okay, but does it not count?
No, Purple Rain is technically not a Prince biopic, and 8 Mile is technically not an Eminem biopic, but it is though.
It's about his life, right?
Kind of.
So you're saying it's about as true as Bohemian Rhapsody?
No, I would. 8 Mile's probably more true than Bohemian Rhapsody. So
then forget I said it.
No.
This is totally valid, Michelle.
I'm saying I don't think if you go look up 8 Mile, I don't think it's classified as a biopic, but it should be.
It's the story of Eminem.
Right, which is...
And he's in it.
Right. Wait, what? Eminem's in it?
Wait, is that who that guy is?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know you're not from Detroit, but that's Eminem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you take her on 8 Mile?
I did. I showed her
We crossed
I
it
showed her the
twice.
2 very different 8 Miles. I showed her the one in Novi, and then I showed her the one in Oak Park. And I was like, the one in Oak Park is the one people think that they're on when they say they were on 8 Mile. But they really weren't.
I had no idea where I was either time.
Yeah, she didn't.
Fine.
She didn't know either.
I was like, okay.
But let me say this: I would say 8 Mile stands, but if you look it up, it's not classified as a biopic, which is kind of dumb because it is.
Give a fuck who classified what.
That sounds like something you would do.
Oh.
So that comes in as number 3 for you.
That's my number 3.
And what is the reasoning behind it? You just really like the music, or you like Eminem, or all of the above?
I really like Eminem, and I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but it was the first R-rated movie my mom ever let me see before I was 17.
My.
She actually went to the movies and bought the tickets and sat in the back when she took me and my friends to see it because she knew how badly I wanted to see it. And
was it super awkward when the sex scene in the automotive plant happened and you knew your mom was sitting 10 rows behind you?
Well, now that you bring it up, yeah, I probably erased it from my brain. Thank you very much.
Wait, what year did that come out?
04?
Oh, 4? No, because no. We would have been age. We would have been 18.
Let's see.
2002.
Is that your guess? Or you looked it up?
That's my 2002 is my guess because of the fact that
it is 2002.
Boom!
So
because of the Weird Al parody on Poodle Hat in 2003.
Oh, right on.
Oh, Weird Al for the rescue.
So yeah, 2002. So I would have been 16. So my mom, I still couldn't see R-rated movies, and my mom had went and bought us our tickets.
That's nice.
That was,
you know what the only bummer is for me, and I'll probably ruin this 2 different ways for you. One, you thinking of your mom sitting 10 rows behind you while you're watching.
Oh, thank you.
Sex scene. Whenever I catch this on cable and stuff, you know what makes me sad is Brittany Murphy.
That does make me sad.
I'm sad all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it has nothing to do with the quality of the film or anything, but it's one of those things where, it's same with Mean Girls. Whenever I see Mean Girls, every time Brittany Murphy's on screen, I'm like, aw.
Was Brittany Murphy in Mean Girls?
Not Mean Girls.
Clueless.
Jesus, apparently I'm real bad at the 90s and 2000s today.
They're just movies about high school girls. They're all the same.
Whenever I happen to see Clueless, I'm always like, oh, Brittany Murphy. And then when I see 8 Mile, it just makes me think of the potential because she was such a different person in 8 Mile than she was in Clueless. So I'm not saying that ruins the movie for me. It's just whenever I see it, I'm always like, oh.
It also can't be any worse than sitting next to my mom and my grandma watching Titanic for the first time when I was 12.
Right.
Oh, the boobies.
Yeah, the boobies.
Nice. Lauren, what do you have in your number 3 slot? In
my number 3 slot, I have, which is probably the forefather of all music biopics today, is Coal Miner's Daughter.
So good.
From 1980, Sissy Spacek about Loretta Lynn.
That's one, Michelle, that and I'm not being funny, I don't think you probably have never heard of this because it would have been, when was it out? Late 70s?
1980.
80, okay. So I was
She just said that.
I just said that. So.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay, sorry. But it's a fantastic music biopic about Loretta Lynn when her career wasn't even close to over.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think what I like about it is that it's very front heavy on the coal miner's daughter part of it. You don't get to her music career until, you're almost halfway through it, right? And it really kind of sets up who she is and what she's about in such a beautiful way. And Sissy Spacek absolutely knocked the role of Loretta Lynn out of the park. And I love Beverly D'Angelo as Patsy Cline in this. I just think that is super fun and super cool. And the relationship between Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn is so beautiful. Loretta Lynn named one of her daughters after Patsy Cline, which I think is super cool. And I honestly, everybody just needs to see this movie because Loretta Lynn is such a badass. She was then and she is now. And she never cared what anybody thought about her.
No.
And I think that's just so cool for a woman, especially coming from where she came from in the circumstances that she was from. She never blamed anybody, and she went and she did the thing, and it's just such a cool movie.
No, I totally agree.
I cried the last time I watched it.
And yeah, and it's done so early in her career. Like it was done like 30 years, 40 years before her career was over.
Right, based off of memoir an autobiography that she wrote.
Right.
You know, so I think that's cool. So this is one of those ones that it's probably more factual than a lot of like music biopics that came after, because it's based off of words that she wrote about herself. Not like, well, we think this is what might have occurred. Like, it's no, this is what it is. A young Tommy Lee Jones is her husband in this.
Yeah.
Like, you forget that Tommy Lee Jones was once a young person because he always kind of looked old.
Right. Yeah. That's very true. What's the one line from Men in Black 3? Something like, you all right? Or something like that. It's my number one Tommy Lee Jones thing.
You made it for me as a ringtone.
You lose something over there, Hoss? That's another one that I like.
Yeah.
But for me, in at number 3 for me, and this is the one that I think is going to be number 1 for Michelle. But we can, there's plenty to discuss about it, so we can go around twice. But for me, in number 3 is Walk the Line. Really the story of John Cash and June Carter Cash. Like, I do like that they're both in the marketing for it. Like almost all the posters in the DVDs and stuff that you see are like both of them.
Yeah.
Are in there because a lot of people just think of it as the Johnny Cash movie. And it is as much about June Carter Cash, I think, as it is John. Would you both
absolutely
agree
it
with
is.
that? Yeah. There's a lot more to like about that movie that we'll discuss in a bit. Like, we'll wait till we'll see if it's Michelle's number 1.
I am waiting with bated breath.
I feel like it's going to be her number 1. I have a lot more to say on the picture, but we'll number 2. But we'll wait until we get around to who knows, it might not even be on Michelle's list. Maybe I'm missing a golden opportunity.
Then we'll circle back
To talk. Yeah, we'll just come back around.
It's your show.
Yeah, I can do that if I want to. So Michelle, we are all the way up to number 2 now. And this is going to be great because this is not going to be a movie you just thought of right before.
No, but I wonder if this is also on your list.
Could be.
Love and Mercy?
Oh, my God, yes.
Is that on your list?
Oh, boy, let me tell you what. That's number 1 on my list.
Aw.
Love and Mercy is so good. Yeah.
It's so good. I don't know why I waited so long to watch it. I'm pretty sure you told me like a billion times that it was so good. And I'm Beach Boys adjacent, I would say. Probably.
Oh, you're famously Beach Boys adjacent.
But you love Pet Sounds, though, right?
It's 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Solid 5 out of 10.
Well, at least it's not a solid 2.
Which is, of course, why she loves the motion picture made around the time where Brian was making that masterpiece.
Makes sense.
Which tracks. Actually, that kind of explains why it's a 5 out of 10, that movie. But anyways, I really had no idea about literally anything. I didn't know about, him bringing, like, what does he bring, a horse in or something into the studio, the animals? And then, the mental struggle that he goes through in the movie. I'd only like heard a little bit of it, but I wasn't really in tune with it. And then when I saw it, I looked up some stuff and I read some stuff, and then it made sense. Like when we went and saw the Beach Boys and you were like, this is not good. Like I think you made us leave early.
Sure did.
And, yeah. And, it really, I just really liked the story, and I feel like it put a lot of things into perspective about their entire brand. Like from childhood on, that their dad was overbearing and like all this other stuff. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing. Brian Wilson is one of those cats who, at the time that picture was made, had been around for minimum of 50 years in the music industry, probably coming up on 60. Right. And so this guy has done like everything, and a million, you're talking about 6 decades they got to cover. Right. And with a lot of artists, that's what you run into, where they're going to have a thing where they're going to have to leave stuff out, or they're going to have to move things around to make things more sensational. And what I love about Love and Mercy is, to me, Brian Wilson's entire story can be told through the mental illness that people weren't aware of, the issues that happened with his father that people aren't aware of, the struggle that he went through and how it destroyed him as a human being making Pet Sounds, right? And then, to be honest, between that and when his redemption, like when his wife, who would go on to be his wife, rescued him from the doctor that was manipulating him, Dr. Eugene Landy, the worst person in the history of the world, save for maybe the Colonel. And you have really, that's like the important parts of the story. And the fact that they told this so masterfully between the flashbacks of showing him like, about to be saved by his wife, and then why he ended up there, and to only touch on those two things, and then, but then you're still telling the whole story of Brian Wilson still, which is amazing to me. That I just it's got to be the most unconventional music biopic I've ever seen. I think I can't think of another one that does anything like that.
Is this based off of autobiography or? Is
It's based off of his book Love and Mercy.
Oh, I should read that.
I don't believe in books. The movie is done so well that I honestly can't see, like, not only is the movie the way the time slips back and forth during the movie, but it's cast so well too. Like, just
absolutely.
Well, you would think of, like, not just the Beach Boys themselves, but like people like Hal Blaine and Carol Kay from the Wrecking Crew. Like, they took the time to actually like cast people who have the same demeanor and look like Carol Kay did when she was young, or Hal Blaine did when he was young. You know what I mean? So it just puts you like right in that. And then who gives a shit what Eugene Landy look like? I don't care if he looked like Paul Giamatti or not, you know, like, as long as he's rotting somewhere, I really don't care what he looked like, you know? So, other than that, and actually, speaking of casting, John Cusack doesn't look a goddamn thing like Brian Wilson, but he plays this person with such a destroyed psyche that you can absolutely, like Michelle, you've physically been in the same room with Brian Wilson, and even the way he talks, you're just like, God, this guy is like still not okay, right?
No.
And the way John Cusack talks in the film, it's like, this guy gets it, like, you know. But then Paul Dano, though, it looks exactly like a young Brian Wilson. He looks just like him, and his demeanor is exactly like him. So, but that's my personal number one music biopic of all time. I think everything about it is absolutely stunning. And, but that's your number two, correct?
That's my number two.
That's your number two. What do you have in for number two, Lauren?
In for number two,
Mhm.
I have Rocket Man.
Which is one I still have yet to see.
Okay, here's the thing. Based on all of the things that you've said, if you were as into Elton John as I am and like knew the nuances of like when stuff came out and what actually happened and all this, that, and the other, this would piss you off.
Yeah.
Okay, like there's so much about this that would piss you off, but it is probably the most Elton John thing that's ever happened. And it is so beautifully him that I can deal with like the factual and chronological errors and stuff with the music.
Okay, but my issue when they do that is if you take away, because you're moving things around to make it more Hollywood. So if they don't, as long as it doesn't take away from Elton John's story, then I don't care. But like what they did to Freddie, that makes what the Queen did as a band lesser than.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. But when you and I went to see the Elvis movie, you were talking about like, oh no, this song didn't come out until then. Like, why is he doing this here and this, that, and the other? Like they have, there's a scene early on in Rocket Man with his father, and the song "I Want Love" is playing in that, which didn't come out until Songs from the West Coast in 2001.
Right.
But that's happening at that point in the movie, and so a lot of the music doesn't make sense chronologically with the timeline, but they're using it for creative and dramatic effect, and so it doesn't really affect the story in a whole lot of ways. But one thing that I absolutely love is because I was kind of just making sure I had all my ducks in a row before I came here to talk about all of this today, and apparently this is classified as, quote, a biographical fantasy musical drama.
Right.
What?
Exactly. It's a biographical fantasy musical drama. And if Elton John was going to have a music biopic done about himself, it would be a fantasy musical drama.
So, Michelle, have you seen this Rocket Man?
Well, first sidebar, when you said that, I thought you meant the Harland Williams Rocket Man, the movie that came out in 1997. This one? You see that?
No. But no, I don't know that movie. But go on.
Oh my God.
Do you know it, Lauren?
I think so.
Okay. Anyways, not what you're talking about, but I have not seen it. No. And I am very far from Elton John adjacent. So I haven't.
He's just there for you, right?
I don't dislike him at all. He's just kind of
there. Yeah. So he's just there for you.
Just there.
But I have not seen the movies, but the movie is done. The songs aren't the only dialogue, but the dialogue, the songs are used as dialogue at points in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily like the right songs for the time period, but like a lot of the story still makes sense and still tracks. This is pretty much the movie version of Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dart Cowboy. Okay. Which I totally love. And so it makes sense. And like Elton was on a lot of drugs at the time. So there's a lot of scenes that are just like, this is kind of sort of how I remember it happening. And it's just very visually cool. And like I said, it feels very appropriate for the artist. And the fact that he hasn't passed yet,
I know that, which song was it? I Want Love.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I know that's like super egregious because that's like a 30-year difference in when that song came out to when it's in the movie. But like, also I could, if you're going to frame the movie from the, like, I was on drugs and I'm not sure what's when, that's okay too. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you, but I know the one song is way egregious, but like if you're on drugs, you for sure don't remember. Yeah. I have a friend of mine who was in a pretty high profile band once, and he said it gets very hard on them people will come up to them and be like, oh, when you guys did this song on that night or whatever. And, he's like, when we are on tour for 200 nights a year, you're like, yes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, sure.
Right.
We totally did that song that night. You know what I mean?
A lot of it turns into an unreliable narrator type situation, which is fun. But like, there are some parts where, like, if I was like a real nitpicky person, I would be like, okay, he couldn't have been in a club in the early 70s playing. I guess that's why they call it the blues, because that didn't come out until 1983. But that's a thing that happens.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
Well,
but
also though,
I
would argue that Elton John would be like, I don't know, maybe I was doing that song then.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
If he was on enough drugs, you know?
So, but it's a beautiful, beautiful movie, and I just love it. And I'm definitely Elton biased about it, but it moved me when I saw it.
Right on. In at number 2 for me, because we already talked about my number 1 because it was Michelle's number 2, which is I'm trying.
And your number 3 is number 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a dry erase board for this. I'm assuming you haven't seen this, Michelle. Of not the least of reason is that it's almost 3 hours long. And Lauren, I know for sure you've seen it because you were sitting next to me in the theater, with the caveat that we could leave at any moment if I was upset by this motion picture. And so in at number 2 for me is the Elvis biopic that just came out. I will tell you that, and Lauren knows this, in the month leading up to that movie coming out, I had an extensive list of things that I would allow in the film and things I would not allow.
He sure did.
Did you tell them this beforehand?
The makers of the for whatever reason, Baz Luhrmann was all like, I don't know this guy, stop contacting me, which is weird.
That is that's super strange.
Yeah, so
should have seen him all day. Let's get Baz on the horn. We need to talk about this.
Right. But Michelle, I did make the assumption. I'm assuming you have not seen this motion picture.
No.
And you are probably not going to, based on length of the movie alone, correct?
Never say never, man.
Russ, can you do a thing where you take it,
make it episodic
for her?
Yeah.
And then Michelle watch it.
Just tell me when to stop.
Right.
This is a good point to stop.
What I'll do is I'll have you put it on, and then every 23 minutes, I'll text you and tell you to stop it. And then, like,
you're saying that I'm going to sit still for 23 minutes at a
you
time?
just said you'll watch a bunch of The Office because
I still pause it.
Office episodes are 23 minutes.
You're going to have to manually make it episodic for her, send her a bunch of MP4s.
Yeah, MP4s. But having said that, Elvis is one of those artists that he's become much bigger of a deal after he passed than when he was alive. But between 1956, when his first material came out, in 1977, when he left us, it's a gargantuan story. Like, there's a ton to tell there. And I personally find, there's an entire decade of his career that for me is an absolute throwaway. Like, you absolutely do not need to know anything about the 60s that Elvis did. Like, he literally went in the army, came out of the army, made 33 awful movies, and then the 68 comeback special happened. And I thought for sure, I was like, they're going to waste so much time on all of the 60s. And if I had my way, they would just do a montage and be done with the 60s. And that's literally what they did. Like, Lauren knows, I almost stood up in the theater and clapped.
My arm is still bruised.
Yeah. Like, they show him in the army. And then when he gets out of the army, they literally do a montage of like all the crappy movies that he made. And then it like stops and it's like 1968. And I was like, oh my God, they did it. Like, they skipped the whole era.
Did it right.
Yeah. And there's so much more to Elvis's story post 1968, like between 1968 and 77, there's so much more to his story than what you always hear, which is the crappy old tired phrase, old fat Elvis, which is not even close to true. And there's so much more to his story. And I went into that going, oh my God, I just hope that they cover some of that. And when we got to like the 2-hour mark and there was almost a full hour left and they were already in the 70s, I almost stood up in the theater. I was like, oh my God, there's gonna be so much time for activities. It's gonna be great. They're gonna cover
activity.
And at the risk of spoiling the end of the film for everybody, and I don't say that in a light way, obviously he passes, but one of the last performances that Elvis ever gave is obviously he looks very, very, very poor, and Graceland has never allowed the footage to be used. has never been officially released ever. And one of the last scenes you see in the movie is Austin Butler is made up to look very much like Elvis looked in his poor condition. And he sits down to sing this song. And between the first verse and the second verse, they do a camera angle switch. And when they come back, it's actually Elvis. Like it's the footage of the real Elvis. And it's really something to see him in his own biopic. Like you don't see that a lot with biopics.
So it was never before seen footage?
No, it had been bootlegged a bunch, but it's never been officially released. But it was really something to see him in his own biopic. Like,
wasn't that one of his last performances in Michigan?
He did perform in Michigan for one of his last ones. Yeah, but that's not this. This is from like Cedar Rapids, Iowa, but it was actually filmed for a TV special, and then he passed away, and Graceland was like, "No, we're not," because he looked awful. His voice was still amazing though. But it was really something for me to see that at the end. Like I've never seen that before. I've never seen anybody, even like the Whitney Houston.
Make me want to watch it.
You absolutely should watch it. It's wonderful. Now again, here's the thing though. I want to say it's not 100% historically accurate. There's things where, did Elvis ever, hang out with B.B. King on Beale Street and have his picture taken by the newspaper? No. Was he friends with B.B. King? Yeah. Did they talk a lot about the music industry? Yeah. Did B.B. King know a lot more about how black people were being treated by the music industry than Elvis? Yeah. So does it stand to reason that they probably had a conversation about that? Probably. Right. So like, I'm okay with that being in the movie. There's a lot of people that were
just don't tell me all the things that is unfactual.
Let me say this.
Blissfully unaware.
Well, in my opinion, the only things that are not factual about the Elvis movie don't matter. Like they happen. Let me give you an example. So there's a scene in the movie where Elvis loudly ends this show and he's obviously whacked out of his mind. And he loudly fires the Colonel on stage in front of like the whole audience. Okay. Now I have a million Elvis shows from 70 to 77 where he's out of his mind, and he stops whole shows to like tell weird stories. And there's a lot of not good moments. And on top of that, there are eyewitnesses from the Las Vegas Hilton who say regularly Elvis would get all loaded, finally get enough of a spine, stand up for himself. Yeah, stand up for himself and fire the Colonel like in front of other people backstage, right? So like they put those things together, and a lot of Elvis fans were offended and were like, that never happened. Well, like, but it did though. Like it did, but it didn't. Like my thing is they took a lot of bad events that Elvis would do around that time and they poured it into one thing. That to me is better than making the movie an extra half hour long to be like, look at all this bad stuff he did. Like they just do it all at once. So as a, nearly an Elvis scholar, knowing as much about his life as I do, in my opinion, there's nothing in it that is at any point would you go, oh, that's insanely egregious. That nothing like that ever happened.
Yeah.
And then I can tell you that Elvis Presley was a very different person in 1950s than he was from 1960s, and very different from who he was in 70s. And this kid, Austin Butler, doesn't look a thing like him, in my opinion, which when we come back to your number one, we'll talk more about that too. This guy, in my opinion, doesn't look a thing like Elvis. And 10 minutes into that movie, you will think you're watching Elvis, and he changes with him. And I'm not just talking about weight, like his mannerisms and everything. You know this in the 70s. It's like watching Elvis. I can show you the real footage of Elvis in the 70s that they recreated for this, and the guy's mannerisms are perfect. It's just done really, really well. Honestly, I think the only reason why Love and Mercy ranks above it for me is because Love and Mercy is more unique. In a way, Elvis is very much, the wrong kid died. It's like Elvis doesn't go on stage till he thinks about his whole life. Like that type of, it's formulaic in a way. Whereas Love and Mercy is so unique that it got my number one spot. So anyways, having said that, we got to go through each of our number ones. And Michelle, we did touch on what I believe is your number one earlier, but what is in fact your number one biopic?
Walk the Line. It's great.
That's that in-depth, hard-hitting discussion Michelle brings to the show.
So I don't even know how I watched it for the first time. Like I
know you borrowed my Blu-ray for like a decade.
So it's probably on Blu-ray.
It was probably on Blu-ray, but I think I'd already watched it after I borrowed yours. I think it was probably on TV or something. Anyways, and before seeing Walk the Line, I had never liked Johnny Cash. I had never even pursued any of his career. I knew nothing about him. I didn't like country. I was like the furthest thing from a Johnny Cash fan you could find. And I saw this movie and I was like hungry for more Johnny Cash. I was like, I need to listen to everything he's ever done. I want to, I want to read up about him. Like, what was his life like? Is this accurate? It was just so, I don't know. He just hits home for me. I don't even like, we have nothing in common, but the way that his story was told, just that he was, this poor kid and he grew up to be something, and the wrong kid died, and that he's singing to prisoners, and like people are like, you shouldn't do that. And, he's like, but I do whatever the fuck I want. And I respect the shit out of him. I think that he knows that he made mistakes and he tried to fix it to the end. And he was just a fucking badass. And I would have never given him a second thought in my life had I not seen that movie.
See, and I like the way that the movie was done because, again, they could have really tried hard to like over sensationalize stuff, but you don't have to. Like, the dude's life was sensational enough as it was.
And they didn't try to make him look like a perfect person. Like they were he did all the drugs and he fucked up a lot. And but this is how his life was. And I guess maybe I'm sure I looked it up, but he was involved in the making, correct?
Well, it's based on his autobiography. So,
but was he alive? He was alive when it came out?
I don't believe so.
No.
Okay. But I mean, it's close. It's very closely based on the book. But one point that you touched on, one point that you touched on that I want to mention is something that a lot of Elvis fans had the problem with the Elvis movie too, is they don't make Elvis out to be an angel in the Elvis movie either. Okay. Right. And a lot of Elvis fans were real pissed off about that. And it's like, well, what do you think? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you think this guy was just perfect his whole life? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, I know that's not true. Second of all, I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see the conflicts of who they were. But you mentioned something about, him doing things his own way. And there's two parts in the movie, Walk the Line, that absolutely stuck with me about like, wow, it just that dude is just going to be who he is. And the rest of us should try and do that as well. One is early on when they're talking to him at the record label about his style. And the guy says, what's with the black all the time? What do you look like you're going to a funeral. And Cash says, maybe I am. Like, because he knows he's going to do his career the way he wants to do it. So he's like, it's like when people say that, like, it's your funeral, like Cash is like, yep, maybe.
Yep.
And then of course the other one is when he's proposing the idea of doing Folsom Prison. And they say, your fan base is a bunch of Christians. They're not going to take to you trying to cheer up a bunch of murderers and rapists. And Cash says, well, maybe they ain't Christian. Great line. Mm-hmm. Great line. There again, that could be something that who knows if he, even if that's in his book, who knows if he actually said that. But like, I'm sure something along those lines occurred.
Oh, I'm sure everyone tried to talk him out of it. And he said some shit like that. Like, I have no doubt. Right.
So yeah, and then another thing too, and this ties into the Elvis picture. Joaquin Phoenix don't look a goddamn thing like Johnny Cash, but I'll tell you what he does do. He acts his ass off. 5 minutes into that movie, you just think you're watching Johnny Cash for the whole rest of the movie.
And Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, but Reese resembles June to me.
She does, but I think she also acted her ass off.
No, I'm not discounting her acting performance. I'm just saying it's for me, it was hard going into the movie. It was harder to buy into Joaquin Phoenix as John than it was
for sure.
But walking out, you didn't feel that way.
Walking out.
Oh
boy. No. 10 minutes into the movie, I was like, and I was the same way with Austin Butler. Oh, like, all the way up until the lights went down in the Elvis movie, I was like, this guy's not going to be like Elvis at all. And then
same thing
10 minutes into the Elvis movie, you're like, son of a bitch.
Yep.
Same thing with what's his name in the Joker.
Heath Ledger.
Yeah, that's the one.
Joaquin Phoenix also went on to play the Joker, but I know which portrayal you're talking about.
Well, full circle here.
Right. Yeah, I know. So those, we've gone through all of ours except for yours, Lauren. You have a number one to share with us now.
I sure do. And this one is completely factual. And the actor portraying the musician looks exactly like the musician. And everything happened exactly the way that it happened in this movie. And I am, of course, talking about Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Which means I'm actually I'm totally lying about everything that I'm saying.
Right.
But here's
I know. Hold on. I always have to stop off for this. I know you're not a regular on our show, but I always have to stop off for this. Michelle, have you seen this movie?
I have not.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, I thought it wasn't true at all. And I thought that you were lying to me this
Now,
whole time.
I'd see, maybe I'm learning some things here. I thought for sure that Madonna had Weird Al kidnapped in real life, and Weird Al did have to go to Central America and fight.
Pablo Escobar?
Yeah. I thought, is that not real?
That is not real.
God damn it.
What?
I know.
I thought for sure the whole movie was real.
I'm all twisted up here. I don't know what's up and what's down.
Here's the thing. And like to actually like bring it back to like what we're all like really talking about here is that I know that this is funny, and I know that like this is not a factual biopic, but like they sat down to do this after like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man had come out and said, okay, well, we can play fast and loose with the facts. We can do what we want to do with this and just have a good time and kind of create a thing that is true to the artist that it's about. And that's what they sat down and like totally did. And it has all of the tropes of any music biopic that happens from, 2004 on. All of the tropes are there. And it does it so incredibly beautifully that like even if you're not a Weird Al fan, you can sit down and watch this and laugh, and because you're gonna recognize like, oh, I see what they're doing there. Oh, I see what they're doing there. And it does a beautiful thing where it's like commenting on the genre of music biopics without saying like music biopics shouldn't be a thing.
Right.
Right. And it's just so well done. And it's to the point where the lead actor looks absolutely nothing like the person he's portraying. Right. But they very, very intentionally cast people that are normally known for more dramatic roles to be in this, so they'd play it straight.
Right.
And everybody plays it straight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so brilliant to me.
Yeah, and honestly, Michelle, I think that you would like it because you're a Weird Al fan. Like, it's not like you're just not like, not, and I don't think just Weird Al fans would like it. I think people just of comedy fans would like it. But I also, there's a certain poetry in the way that this movie's done, in my opinion. Like, because you could look at it on the surface and just be like, oh, well, if that counts, then so does Dewey Cox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, not,
you said that counted.
No, and that's, I agree. Dewey Cox is a whole different shit. We should have done a whole episode on that movie because that's a whole different story. But with the Weird Al movie, it's like, even though the things like I mentioned, like the Central America gunfights and so on did not occur in real life, like it's still what Weird Al's done his whole career, though. The movie is based on what he's done his whole career, which is bring joy to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And they touch on almost all the big stuff that they need to, just like most music biopics do. And I would also make the same argument as I did for Austin Butler and Joaquin Phoenix, where, yeah, Harry Potter doesn't look a damn thing like Weird Al, but he does a good job in the movie. Like he really does. He really does.
What the one thing I loved about it is he learned like rudimentary accordion skills, which is not an easy thing to learn how to, like, it's very difficult to even fake play an accordion.
Well, that's kind of, if you know magic, then you can.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Wait, now hold on. Those movies are real, right?
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I love about it is in the performance scenes in the movie, Daniel Radcliffe is actually singing, but that's why the lip syncing doesn't match up, because Daniel Radcliffe is singing, but then they overdubbed Weird Al vocals over it, which they did as a nod to Bohemian Rhapsody, which I think is just so great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really
so well done.
Like I say, I guess my biggest thing with it is that it is still telling you Weird Al's story, which is like what he's done is bring a lot of joy to people for the last 40 years or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. The
and
thesis is there. Yeah.
It's just and it's doing it in the way that he did his own career, right? So yeah, to me it totally qualifies, and Dewey Cox would qualify for this discussion too, but for different reasons. Like the very short thing is, Dewey Cox is making fun of the genre, but I don't think at any point is Dewey Cox making fun of the musicians and the people that lived it. Like even Jack White plays a very exaggerated Elvis. And I don't believe that whole scene is there to make fun of Elvis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just made like Elvis is a placeholder for these wild things that happen between musicians when they're young, and these guys get to hang out with people that, years later they would all be known as legends, and they're just guys
Yeah.
when they're younger, you know.
So fun.
So, yeah. So Michelle coming in at a pinch there at the end and having 3. That's real good. Real good. Look at the big brain on Michelle. Well done.
I know. I asked Kyle, I was like, name some music biopics. And he was like, why? You've never seen any of them. And I was like, well, maybe I have. And he named a whole bunch and I had never
you
seen
had never seen any of
I
them.
was like, okay,
So,
thanks for that.
use the old feedback. Let us know what you think of the biopics we mentioned in this movie or in this episode. Let us know which of the movies that you've seen, which of them that we didn't mention that you love. Because there's a ton that I've seen that I love that, well, I didn't qualify for my top 3, but there's a bunch that I love for different reasons. So please let us know which ones that you love that we might have touched on. Next week on the program is going to be the second to the last episode of the Infectious Groove podcast, and we will be joined by our friend Seth, who is coming in to sit down to do a totally epic cover battle with me, and that is going to be the song Knocking on Heaven's Door, which was originally released by Bob Dylan and then very famously covered several times over in different versions by Guns N' Roses, some 25, 30 years after the original was released. So Seth and I are going to talk through the Bob Dylan original, the Guns N' Roses cover, and what we like about both and which one ultimately we think is better. So that will be on the next week's episode. Then the following week will be the last episode of the Infectious Groove podcast. For now, the audio podcast version of it, the YouTube channel will still keep going. So Michelle will be back to join me for that. And we don't even have a topic. It's just going to be us sitting around talking about how great we are and all the amazing things that we've done. So that should be an awesome listen for everybody, if you ask me.
We might have a special guest.
We may or may not have a special guest. I'm not counting that chicken till it hatches. So we'll wait and see.
Fine, I'll come back.
Solid. Like we always say about this time, without music, life would be a mistake. Bye.
Bye. The Infectious Groove podcast is hosted by Russ Robinson, Kyle Wimple, and Michelle Casalecki. Produced and edited by Russ Robinson. Intro and outro music composed by Chris Kimmel. Recorded with a Rode Podcaster Pro and Rode Pod mic.